Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the special session of the Ann Arbor City Council, September 30th, 2020. Would our clerk please call the reading of order and notice of call of special session?
Notice is hereby given that an electronic special session of the City of Ann Arbor City Council will be held on Monday, September 30th, 2020 at 6:00 p.m. for the following purpose: to hear public comments regarding the proposed settlement documents in Michigan Attorney General versus Gelman Sciences, Inc., case number 88-34734-CE in the Washtenaw County Circuit Court.
Thank you. If you're able, please join us for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Would our clerk please call the roll of council?
Councilmember Hayner?
Here.
Councilmember Bannister?
Here.
Councilmember Griswold?
Here.
Councilmember Lum?
Here.
Councilmember Grand? Absent. Councilmember Ackerman?
Here.
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Councilmember Eaton?
Here.
Councilmember Nelson?
Here.
Councilmember Smith?
Present.
Councilmember Unlawi?
Here.
And I will note that Councilmember Grand has just joined the meeting.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda? Moved by Councilmember Rumlawi, seconded by Councilmember Lum. Discussion of the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. DC1, to hear public comments regarding the proposed settlement documents in Michigan Attorney General v. Gelman Sciences, Inc. in case number 88-34734-CE in the Washtenaw Circuit Court. This is a public hearing. Public hearings are opportunities for members of the public to speak to council and the community about the specific subject matter of the public hearing. That is to say, in this context, the proposed settlement documents. To speak at the public hearing, one need not have signed up in advance. Speakers need dial the numbers on your screen. That is 877-853-5247. 877-853-5247. Once you have been connected, please enter the meeting ID. That is 987-0473-7314. 987-0473-7314. Once you have been connected and entered the meeting ID, please indicate your desire to speak by entering *9 to raise your hand. The clerk will identify you by the last 3 digits of your telephone number when it is your time to speak. Speakers have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time is concluded. At the end of your 3 minutes, please end your remarks and cede the floor to the next speaker. Is there anyone who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Mayor, we have caller ending in phone number 345. If you unmute yourself, you can speak. Caller 345, I believe you can hit *6 to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, this is Kitty Kahn, 515 Krause Street, Ann Arbor. I have a question. Why are we not insisting that Danaher clean up the Gelman plume? They have the technology, and it has been used in other states, and in fact, Gelman used it here until former Judge Sheldon allowed them to revert to the less effective method. I'm going to quote from a 2016 WEMU report that compared how Ann Arbor is dealing with 1,4-dioxane to how Tucson dealt with it. Okay, here we go. Neither state nor federal law is making Tucson remove their dioxane. They are proud of their plant. Last year, it won grand prize in a national contest. Its award-winning technology is supplied by a company called Trojan UV. Searching the trojanuv.com website, I open a slideshow touting the treatment process used in Tucson. Where have I seen the name Trojan UV? Oh yeah, it was on the environmental page of Danaher.com. Turns out Danaher has owned Trojan UV since 2004. Danaher, the same $60 billion Canadian company that last year bought Paul Corporation. Now remember, this is a 2016 report, so that was 2015 when they bought it. So while Danaher's subsidiary in Ann Arbor is letting its plume spread, its company in Tucson has proven it can remove dioxane to nearly non-detectable levels. Should Danaher be held to a greater level of accountability? Danaher has not responded to requests for comment. Okay, that's the end of the report. I encourage everyone to Google WEMU 1,4-dioxane Tale of Two Cities and listen to this report. It's very informative. So, reject this terrible consent judgment and insist that Danaher clean up the Gelman plume. They have the technology to do it. We should not pay a red cent for this cleanup. Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 879. Caller phone number ending in 879, you can speak. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Vince Caruso. Hi, my name is Vince Caruso. Thanks for the public hearing tonight. I'm at 556 Glendale Circle, founding and board member for CARD. I'm a founding and coordinator member for the Allens Creek Watershed Group. I'm a former executive com member for Sierra Club Huron Valley Group. Allens Group does not support the proposed fourth CJ. We support Ann Arbor Township's unanimous vote to reject the proposed CJ, and Roger Rail, Dan McNell, and many others who will reject the CJ. Sierra Club Huron Valley voted to reject the CJ as well. No supportive comments from callers in the recent past public hearings that I'm aware of. This CJ is a take it or leave it proposition, no modifications allowed. The biggest reason Dr. Lemke supports proposed CJ is the high cost and neighborhood disturbance of a full cleanup. EPA will take care of the cost when they do the cleanup. Danaher is a $140 billion company, and they'll be required to pay the full cleanup under EPA Superfund, as others have in the past. It's much less disruptive methods are available now, like the Hypox trailers that handle 50 gallons per minute and treat to non-detect. Northrop Grumman's Bethpage, New York 1,4-dioxane site is over 4 times larger than the Gelman site. It is an active, effective EPA Superfund cleanup site, as shown by Dan McNell. Dr. Lemke admits he is not a geological environmental cleanup specialist as well. Senator Stabenow personally told me in 2016, after Donald Trump took office, EPA will still be doing polluter pay cleanups. It's the orphan sites that are a real problem, and this is not an orphan site. Danaher is on the hook for this cleanup, according to several comments by Mitch Edelman at Eagle, the Jackson Division Chief at the time, at public hearings when he was asked. Mayor Taylor should recuse himself from voting. He is a partner in the law firm making hundreds of thousands of dollars on his unacceptable proposed CJ. He's also being conflict and very reluctant to criticize his law firm partners who helped write the CJ. Current CJ is actually a better cleanup than the proposed CJ, which has several unacceptable restrictions. Proposed extraction wells miss lots of high concentration locations according to well maps shown by Roger Rail. Giving up right to petition the Superfund is dangerous. Enlarging prohibition zones for
30
the third
seconds.
time and potentially many more times is inappropriate and should not be allowed. Taking away the Maple Road containment rule will also be a problem in that it will allow the plume to move through the city at much higher rates than we have now, and is unacceptable. Basically, 500 part per billion cleanup standard that being used in this proposed CJ is a non-starter. Ann Arbor Charge House Township wells to the north are not protected due to the lack of monitoring wells. Lower down, higher concentration aquifers will crosstalk with near surface aquifers and be contaminated, which could expose people
Time.
with vapor intrusion into residential businesses. This is a quick and easy way for Donaher and
Thank you.
Gelman to get out of this cleanup. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 432, you can go ahead and speak.
Good evening. My name is Dan Bicknell. I'm President of Global Environment Alliance. The proposed Fourth Amendment consent judgment will not stop the dioxin plume from expanding towards Ann Arbor Charter Township wells, Scioto Township wells, or Barton Pond. The shallow plume will travel through the city of Ann Arbor unabated, presenting risk to building occupants from indoor vapor intrusion or contact with wet basements, as well as to utility workers in a trench who are in contact with the polluted groundwater. The consent judgment is not protecting the public health of the environment. The CJ says that the prohibition zone objective is to prevent groundwater contamination from migrating beyond the prohibition zone boundary, but it actually allows Gelman or Eagle to ask the court to expand the prohibition zone boundary with additional data. They are not required to first take all actions necessary to halt the plume. The CJ says that Gelman must attain the dioxane generic groundwater surface water interface value of 280 parts per billion dioxane. But in a hidden reference, it instead allows Gelman to use a mixing zone-based groundwater surface water interface value, which is many times greater than the generic 280 part per billion value. Eagle has stated many times that the Fourth Amendment consent judgment will increase the rate of groundwater extraction of the dioxin-contaminated groundwater. But actually, for the extraction wells which Gelman must install, the CJ requires approximately the same collection of groundwater as currently being withdrawn today. The the city environmental consultant stated recently that the Gelman plume will now be too big to clean up to drinking water levels. However, the Gelman-owned feasibility study indicates that it is technically feasible to halt the dioxin plume and remediate to drinking water criteria. Today, I provided City Council with the Northrop Grumman Bethpage contaminated site, which details where the state is cleaning up to solve a plume that is twice as large and 4 times as deep as the Gelman dioxin plume using standard groundwater extraction and treatment technology. The Northrop Grumman system extracts 12,500 gallons per minute. Gelman, under the Fourth Amendment consent judgment, requires extraction to withdraw only 476 gallons per minute. There's nothing unique about the Gelman plume or its size to stop it from being remediated to drinking water levels. On balance, the third amended consent
30
judgment
seconds.
will simply, thank you, with simple updating of the definitions to the current Eagle drinking water and groundwater surface water interface criteria is more protective of public health than this Fourth Amendment consent judgment. This proposed Fourth Amendment consent judgment should not be approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 106, you can speak.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shauna Milkey. I'm a concerned citizen of Ann Arbor and a member of CARD. I live on Keenly Court, 1 block north of the current Prohibition Zone northern boundary. I'm very disappointed in the proposed settlement and urge the Ann Arbor City Council to reject it. Some of the many problematic aspects of this consent judgment proposal are the circular reasoning that expanding the Prohibition Zone is necessary because the current Prohibition Zone would not be in compliance with the updated 7.2 parts per billion drinking water standard. Gelman knew years ago that the standard had been tightened, yet chose to do nothing about it. Expanding the current Prohibition Zone effectively rewards Gelman for delaying negotiations. The loss of the Maple Road containment objective that was in the third consent judgment. Instead of striking this provision, shouldn't the limit be changed to 280 parts per billion? Discharge of treated groundwater at 7.2 parts per billion to First Sister Lake, a lake which does not currently contain any dioxane. It is unconscionable to deliberately introduce pollutants into this pristine lake. Dr. Lemke suggests that environmental monitoring and modeling are needed to determine the impacts, but if it's not in the consent judgment, then that wouldn't happen. The provision that local governments would lose their continuing rights if they solicit EPA Superfund intervention or request the governor to do so. This restriction is entirely unacceptable. The release of claims section of the settlements with the county, the city of Ann Arbor, and Sire Township, which requires local units of government to waive possible future claims against the company. We do not know what we will have to deal with in the future regarding this pollution or possible changes in state environmental law. It seems unwise to limit our options. In sum, I request the City Council to reject this proposed settlement. Instead, I urge Eagle to ask Judge Connors for an emergency order to enforce the current consent judgment at the 7.2 and 280 standards. While that is ongoing, I think the community should simultaneously pursue the EPA Superfund petition and go to court to achieve a remediation plan that truly protects public health and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, there are other callers on the line. I'll remind them to hit *9 if they have a comment.
Thank you. For everyone who is interested in speaking, if you would please enter *9. You'll be called in order. It makes things go faster if you enter *9 and hang out in the queue.
Caller 867, did you have a comment? Caller with the phone number ending in 867, if you hit *6, that will unmute your phone.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. My name is Mojgan. Can I speak?
Yes, you can. It's your turn.
All right. Well, my name is Mojgan Savabi Isfahani, and I have been speaking to the City Council and to whoever I could about the fact that this proposal is abominable. It is a shame to even entertain it. I have said many times that we should abandon this. This is just a spit in the face of every person who lives in Ann Arbor. You, after years of secret negotiations, have come up with this totally unacceptable proposal. Mr. Mayor, you have said that you're excited about this agreement. This is nothing to be excited about, only to be ashamed of. We need to clean up this Gelman dioxin contamination once and for all. To those who in good faith believe EPA is going to clean it up for us, I refer them to what the representative of EPA told us in January, which is that EPA is a very slow process, and even if Ann Arbor was a part of the Superfund list, which it isn't, even then it would take decades before a feasibility study is done for the EPA to decide whether or not they will take on the task. This will mean that we have to wait and watch the dioxin grow bigger and bigger for decades to come. This is insanity. Already, we are responsible for destroying large parts of our environment. We are responsible to clean it up. If you don't have the muscle or the will to force the Gelman people to clean it up, we must clean it up ourselves. Go after them if you actually want. But seriously, get money from them if you can, but don't wait any longer. If we wait any more, we might lose every chance to clean up this mess. We would be condemning everybody living in this town and around it to live with a massive contamination.
30 seconds.
It will all be on your head, Mr. Mayor and the City Council. Start putting the millage to the public, ask them, and we will pay for it. Everybody in Ann Arbor I have talked to, they are happy to pay for it and clean it up. Clearly, our officials have failed miserably for over 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. And we've got to clean it up now. It is our duty to our children and for the environment to clean it up. Stop
Time.
dragging your feet. Clean it up now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 556. Caller 556, you can go ahead and speak.
Hello, my name's Ralph McKee, 1116 Red Oak. I sent a detailed email earlier today, which some of you probably haven't had time to read yet. Hopefully you'll be able to read it later. I wanted to focus first on the tremendous amount of work done by Dan Bicknell and Roger Rail, who've studied this issue for 25 plus years as volunteers, the heroes in my book. Mr. Bicknell has substantial expertise, having worked for the EPA on cleanups that are similar to this one, and Mr. Rail is way, way into the details and knows as much or more than anybody else on this issue. Their presentations at the Scioto Township Board meeting are a must-see. You absolutely have to watch that if you haven't already. I'm assuming many of you have, but if you haven't, you really need to look at that. It's an eye-opener. At last Thursday's meeting, moderated by Representative Dingell, Mr. Lemke and Mr. Dindoffer for the city tried to rebut some of the points made by Mr. Bicknell and Mr. Rail. The rebuttals, frankly, were not very compelling. I think that debate went in favor of the opposition here. And I would encourage you in good faith to sit with your counsel and consultant for as long as it takes to really understand the detail of the back and forth on those points, because it's really crucial. Three of the points out of the many that were made that I was not aware of until watching that. One, the proposed remediation on the actual Gelman property the proposed remediation spots don't match up with the actual sites where the highest concentrations are. That's crucial. If you don't get where it's coming from, it's just going to happen all over again. And number two, as Mr. Bicknell alluded to earlier tonight, the piping gallons per minute is not much different in this proposed judgment than it was in the third. Number three, there's not enough monitoring wells in some crucial locations, particularly to the north. Those are just three of many points. I submitted a number of questions for the Thursday meeting. Some got answered. Two key ones were not.
30 seconds.
What are the outs that Danaher has? And two, what are the litigation possibilities? Those are crucial items. You cannot analyze whether to enter into a settlement unless you know what the litigation possibilities are under the current consent judgment. And if the criteria is now reduced, presumably a lot would have to be done by the court to get to that remediation. That should be explored. Maybe that's been explored and and we don't, but that I just would encourage you to do that due diligence before you decide. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beth Collins. Beth, you can go ahead and speak.
Hi, this is Beth Collins. I'd first like to thank all of you for receiving all of our emails and hopefully reading them. Sorry, sometimes they're kind of lengthy. I'd also like to thank you for all the hard work you've done in this many years of this, all of you. Dr. Lemke had corrected us on the 100-year storm event into the First Sister Lake and calling it a 10-year storm event. I still have concerns with that. A 10-year storm event every 24 hours into a wetlands could do significant damage. I think we all are in agreement now that that is a bad idea. So if that's not going to be done, and we're talking about possibly piping it somewhere, then maybe we should concentrate on the actual hotspot, which is in the city easement behind Weber's, so that ugly thing, that those two shipping containers are not right adjacent to homes on Park Lake. So there's a lot of reasons why you should reject this. We've given you many of them, and I agree with all the previous callers, but I'd like you to consider all of these problems for the next negotiations or for going to trial. that many of these are very unacceptable, letting the polluter dictate like they have all along. The thing is that I feel like that this is really, everybody agrees that this is bad. There's very few that think that this is a good agreement, and this bridges all political divides in the town as far as I've seen. So I'm pretty pleased that everyone agrees we should not let this polluter contaminate our wetlands, contaminate our lake, let it freely flow into the Allen Creek and things like that. I've heard over 50 residents speaking at all of these meetings. Not one has spoken in favor. Like Brian Nagel, the Assistant Attorney General, stated, this is either a thumbs up or a thumbs down vote. There's no more negotiating. We can't go and tell them, well, we don't like this part of it. We have to vote no on this fourth CJ and then move on to the next step. Hopefully we'll be stronger during the next step. And again, I don't know what else I can say, but thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 598, did you have a comment? Caller 598, I believe if you press *6, you can unmute your phone. Caller 598, do you have a comment? Caller 598, go ahead. Caller with the phone number ending in 598.
Yes.
Do you have a comment?
Yes. My name is Susan Kaufman. I live on 5th Street in Ann Arbor. I ask you to oppose the Gelman consent.
598, I believe if you press *6, you can unmute your phone.
My name is Susan Kaufman. I live on 5th Street in Ann Arbor. I'm asking you to oppose the Gelman consent.
Do you have a comment?
Yes. Do you hear me?
Ma'am, you are live. May I suggest that you turn off your computer or your television? There's a little bit of a delay. Just work with the phone.
Go ahead. Caller with the phone number ending in 598.
Yes.
Do you have a comment?
Yes. My name is Susan Kaufman. I live on 5th Street in Ann Arbor. I ask you to oppose the Gelman consent.
598, I believe if you press *6, you can unmute your phone.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, ma'am.
I live on 5th Street in Ann
Okay.
Arbor.
Please turn off your computer. Turn off
Asking you to oppose
your television.
Gelman consent. I have no television. I am shutting down my computer.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I ask you to oppose the Gelman consent judgment. I live on 5th Street in Ann Arbor, close to Waterworks Park and Playground, and also close to West Park. Waterworks Park had dioxin discovered in surface water not long ago. I'm very concerned that the judgment would require Washtenaw County, Ann Arbor, and other intervening government entities to sign away rights to pursue legal remedies or to seek EPA Superfund site designation and federal assistance with remediation. I'm also concerned that the plan includes directing still polluted, so-called treated water into one of the currently pristine sister lakes with likely spillover into surrounding wetlands. Finally, since new larger piping will not be added, it does not appear that the plan proposed in the judgment will slow or halt the progression of the plume toward the Huron River. It's hard for me to believe that this giveaway to Gelman is the best we can do. Please reject it and seek the support of the EPA for cleanup. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Mayor, I still have a few callers on the line who haven't yet spoken. Would you like me to call on them, or I can remind
Yes,
them?
thank you. If anyone is listening who wish online, who has called in and wish to speak, please enter *9 now. If you do not enter *9, you will not be able to speak. Please enter *9 now, and please do so, and we'll get you in the queue. And the public hearing will move faster. Also, if you could, please turn off your television, or turn off or move away from your computer and listen to the public hearing on your telephone. Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 157, you can go ahead and speak.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hey, my name is Nancy Schiffler. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Huron Valley Group of the Sierra Club regarding this amended consent judgment. It's our feeling that, well, the negotiations over the past 4 years have produced some changes. We don't feel they're sufficient. The CJ provides limited gains to the plaintiffs while requiring minimal changes in what Gelman is already doing. The new 7.2 standards are a positive, but they are, of course, required by state law now in any event. Some new monitoring and extraction wells have been added, but the dilution and dispersion strategy remains rather than a more aggressive cleanup strategy. And rather than halting and cleaning up plume migration, the strategy relies on expanding the prohibition zone and converting private wells to the city water system. Treatment short of best management practice remains. Extraction procedures and rates are set to accommodate existing Gelman equipment rather than identifying the most effective procedures and equipment needed to control and treat dioxane plume. Right as it stands right now, treated water would be discharged into First Sister Lake. And you have heard, I think, numerous complaints about that. And this is all in the absence of effective studies of the impact on the health of the lake. And finally, the interveners would be required to submit an order of dismissal, terminating their rights to participate in the CJ. They would also be required to agree not to support any request to the EPA for Superfund designation for the site. So after 4 years of negotiations, we are still not far from where we were when the process started. Gelman and Eagle are still focused on dilution and dispersion. The one new effort at extraction would result in treated water going into First Sister Lake. And this is obviously a concern, and there are some attempts apparently going on to change that, but that is not the sole problem we're facing.
30 seconds.
Okay. These conditions are not sufficient outcomes for years of negotiations. If we accept this amended CJ, we will be locked into a process with minimal gains and at the same time locked out of any role in directing change. We urge the interveners to reject this consent judgment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 644, caller 644, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and speak.
My name is Kathy Boris, and I live at 1726 Charlton. City Council and Mayor, I imagine what most people want is a complete cleanup of the Gelman plume, but what we are being offered in the fourth consent judgment is a roadmap for letting Gelman off the hook in the quickest and least expensive manner possible. Dan Bicknell and Roger Rail, in their presentations to the Scioto Township Board on September 22nd, were thorough in explaining how CJ4 will benefit Gelman while failing to halt the expansion of the dioxane plume. and they explained that that must be our goal, to stop the expansion of the dioxane plume before dioxane somehow migrates into the main source of our drinking water, Barton Pond. Because I cannot compete with the expert explanations of Dan Bicknell and Roger Rail, I will simply add my voice to the voices of those who have already spoken or written letters asking local officials to reject CJ4. And I would like to remind you, City Council members, that when you vote to reject CJ4, you will simultaneously be voting to preserve Sister Lake in its present pristine condition, to preserve our right to take Gelman back to court, and to preserve our right to petition the EPA for Superfund status. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this special meeting. One more thing, I urge Mayor Taylor to recuse himself from all votes regarding consent judgment 4. And this is because Mayor Taylor works for Hooper Hathaway attorneys at law, who represented Scioto Township in the negotiations resulting in consent judgment 4. Please, Mayor Taylor, I urge you to recuse yourself. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 903, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and speak. Caller 903.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak out against the CJ that you'll be voting on. My name is Alexander Weinstein, and I'm a resident of Ann Arbor and Scioto Township, and I believe you all have an incredibly important decision in front of you, one that endangers the Sister Lakes, the citizens of Ann Arbor and Scioto Township, and I'm speaking today to ask that you reject this CJ and vote against it. I live on the second Sister Lake, and I have a well that would be directly affected by the settlement. As well, I have children who swim in the lake and would be directly affected by this document. As you all know, the polluters proposed that they would be pumping, treating dioxane, and discharging the contaminated water into the lake and surrounding area. And this action would, by design, introduce carcinogenic pollutants to our lake. And this is a horrible, completely unacceptable solution, one that endangers me, my children, my community, and our wetlands. Most importantly, is through the recent meetings and shared documents, it's become clear that a thorough investigation of the effects on Sister Lake, if this were to pass, haven't been conducted yet. And since this research does not presently exist, I ask that you reject the solution, as it only allows the polluter to further endanger Ann Arbor and Scioto Township residents and the Sister Lakes area and the surrounding neighborhoods. Mayor Taylor, I'm very thankful to hear that the email you sent today to Lakeview, that you support funding a pipeline to alleviate the dangers of Sister Lake should this proposal pass. But it's my understanding that presently you'll all only have the power to vote yes or no on the proposed CJ. And if this is indeed the case, I'm once again urging you to reject the CJ as it stands, regardless of any plans for the pipelines, since those plans have not been included in this version of the CJ. I've sent along an email with the video of Dan Bicknell and Roger Rail's excellent analysis of this proposed settlement, which many people have spoken to. Among the problems there include the Maple Road boundary, possible vapor intrusion into homes, that the prohibition zone can be expanded. I'm strongly opposed to Part 4, as it would forever release the polluter from any claims, present or future, made against it due to the very real damage that the polluter would cause or has caused. And if I understand correctly, this settlement would in effect make it increasingly difficult, if not impossible, for governments to petition the EPA for Superfund evaluation, and would allow the polluter to pull out from culpability, particularly if Eagle says they can. And if dioxin reaches 550 ppb in hot spots like Park Lake Rose or the core area. Again, Dan Bicknell and Roger Rail's presentation speak to this much more thoroughly than I can. This is a deeply unethical document. The settlement is unacceptable to me. The fourth CJ proposal would directly allow the polluter to get out of the damage and future damage as they've done. I come to you as someone whose life and whose I come to you as someone whose life and whose children's lives will be directly impacted in an awful way if you do not reject this proposal. It directly hurts and endangers our citizens, and my very children happen to be among the individuals that the CJ is willing to sacrifice. Please do not accept this document. It does not give significant benefit and trades off our rights and our health. I thank you in advance for rejecting this document on behalf of all the people who count on you to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 464, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Linda Brower, 421 3rd Street. The fourth amended consent judgment, we've been waiting for it for 3 years with bated breath. I'm really sorry that it's so disappointing. In fact, the more I look into it, it's actually almost embarrassing. It doesn't seem to take much legal expertise to read the settlement agreement to see that it asks us to give away pretty much all of our rights in managing the toxic plume in perpetuity for very little in return. Just more of the dilute and disperse approach that Gelman has been using all along, while the plume has expanded and reached West Park and the northern plume progresses to Barton Pond. The CJ doesn't even require Gelman-Danaher to use the best technology that it owns through its subsidiary Trojan Technologies, which they have used in Tucson, Arizona. To see Ann Arbor, that a community that touts itself as so environmentally sustainable and progressive, be outshone by Tucson, Arizona says a lot. Why would we acquiesce to this CJ and settlement agreement with an $18 billion Fortune 500 company that has the money and technology to do the best cleanup technically possible? And why would we tie the hands of officials in Ann Arbor in perpetuity and give up the only leverage we have that Gelman is truly afraid of, the option to petition for Superfund status? The discharge of 7 parts per billion 1,4-dioxane plus bromite into a currently clean sister lake isn't the only deal breaker in this CJ and settlement agreement. It contains multiple deal breakers. Please listen to our local environmental experts who have been studying this toxic plume for decades, are paid by no one, and have no vested interest other than to ensure safe drinking water for current and future residents. Their materials clearly demonstrate why the proposed CJ is virtually no improvement over the current one, technically speaking. And listen to what may be our only remaining local environmental group who remains independent of city politics, the Sierra Club Huron Valley Group. And listen to local community members who have been speaking out and emailing you over the past weeks. You recently approved a remarkable sustainability plan in A20. The decision before you is an opportunity to stand up for sustainable water quality. You often talk about your concerns for future residents. Let's make sure they have clean water.
30 seconds.
Don't abdicate your responsibilities by accepting the CJ and leave it to future council members and residents to clean up this mess after you are retired from politics, as our former politicians have done. Please reject this CJ and settlement agreement. We can continue to operate under the current CJ as our several communities plan next steps. The current offer is simply unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 340, you can go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for holding this special hearing. My name is Lauren Sargent. I live at 2815 Ember Way.
Caller 340, go ahead.
My name is Lauren Sargent. I live at 2815 Ember Way in Ann Arbor. I've lived in Ann Arbor since 1984. I want to concur with all of the things that citizens and groups who've worked as volunteers on this Gelman plume. I agree with everything that they've said, and I hope that you as a council will look to the resolution that Ann Arbor Township passed for a model of an appropriate response. I'm going to tell you, though, something a little bit different. This is a tale of two environmental struggles. In 1987, I was a member of the Huron Valley Greens, one of the founding members of the Huron Valley Greens. We were a local group, and among our members at the outset are some names that will be familiar to you. Jeff Gerhardt, who's currently at the Ecology Center, Barry Lonick, who's involved in land conservancy, Professor Emeritus from the School of Natural Resources, Bunyan Bryant, and somebody who may not be familiar to you, but he works in energy services for the state of Vermont, Edward Delhagen. Me. There were some others. Well, we worked on two projects close to our beginning. One of them was to help our colleagues in Detroit fight the Detroit incinerator that was not built at the time. The other one was the Gelman plume. We also worked to successfully lobby for municipal control over our recycling and the MRF. Well, the Detroit incinerator was built and is now being decommissioned, but the Gelman plume moves inexorably through our groundwater, our surface water, and towards our drinking water at Barton. Something that happened to us that was very interesting is that Charles Gelman had our group infiltrated. A man named John Sykes joined the Huron Valley Greens, and you can read his obituary from 2006 and see that he was indeed an employee of Gelman. How do we know he infiltrated us? Because he was told kind of wild stories about that we were crazy, radical, environmentalist, destructive people. But once he got to know us, he realized that we were concerned about our community and our watershed. And so he confessed to us and told us why he was there, was to undermine our opposition to Gelman and our efforts to insist on cleanup of that plume. Well, we have kicked this can down the road, and this consent judgment basically means that Gelman wins, that dishonesty wins, that obfuscating wins, that, threatening and twisting arms and delaying wins, and we simply cannot capitulate to that. We can't give up our right to litigate. We can't give up our right to clean up under Superfund, and we also know that Danaher has the technology to actually remediate the situation and stop that plume from spreading. And to even consider polluting a pristine lake, it's like the cat in the hat. It's absolutely absurd. Please vote no. Please say no. Please stand up for us. Do not let Gelman win.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 409. Do you have a comment?
Hello?
Yes, it's your turn to speak at the public hearing.
This is Carol Furtado. I live at 505 Lakeview Avenue. I'm one of the people that would be directly affected by the discharge into First Sister Lake. When the lake levels rise, it will pollute our wells. I will no longer have my own water, as well as Alexander, who has just talked about it. I don't need to add anything, except you can see with all the extra things that they've added in about our wells being polluted, that they expect that's what's going to happen. And it's just unconscionable that this is going to happen to us. Please vote no.
Thank you very much.
Caller with the phone number ending in 411. Do you have a comment? Caller with the phone number ending in 411. You can press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Thanks, Mayor Taylor. This is James Demore, and thank you for holding this public hearing this evening. As many of you know, I am currently a member of CARD, and I came to that when I was serving on the executive committee of the Huron Valley Group Sierra Club back in 2016. When we petitioned along with SIO and Ann Arbor Townships to do a preliminary investigation to determine if the Gum Plume should be established as a Superfund site. I still believe it should be the case. I think the EPA will help provide a better system than what's being provided here. I would just want to say that I concur with a lot of the other speakers here tonight that you should reject this consent judgment. Even if you are skeptical of U.S. EPA involvement, consider this. Something that has just come to my attention is even if we use the current state standards of 7.2 parts per billion for drinking water than the previous standards, we would have a better cleanup standard than what's being proposed before you tonight. There are many questions as many people have raised. I think you should certainly the burden before you is to not accept the consent judgment in the current form. I have really 2 points to make. One, just simply being that, as I understand it, citizens have been asking the city for questions related to the plume, and they were advised that all questions need to be referred to city staff. I think that what was said at the meeting last week, the joint meeting between the different jurisdictions, that we should have a greater degree of transparency. I think it'd be helpful for you. I think it'd be helpful for the public to have a better basis moving forward in making decisions. I think this county, the city, our community is better than this. Now, to be sure, many of my best friends are lawyers, and there's some good ones amongst yourselves. If we are not going to involve the EPA, ask for something better, something that protects our community and not an inadequate compromise. And moving forward from here, looking at this consent judgment, oh my goodness, let's make this a more public process. Do not accept this consent judgment. You can do much better. Go back to the drawing board and give a solution for cleanup of the aquifer, not more dispersion and dilution. We can do better than what we've got here. And with that, folks, I thank you for considering my remarks, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 982, do you have a comment? Caller 982, go ahead.
Yes, hello. Am I unmuted?
You're all set. We can hear you.
Oh, great. Okay. Hi, this is Jillian Carey. I am a SIO Township resident, but I was a resident of Ann Arbor City for 11 years. I feel like I have lived in Michigan my whole life, and I am descended from founding fathers. I have found my home here. I have moved here from Flint, Michigan, which is also has poison water. But I love this area because it's beautiful. And I know that you feel the same way. It's not just about the money. It's not just about whatever else is the education and whatnot. It is because we have a beautiful area and we have a lot of like-minded people here. We are all in this together. You may be sitting in a seat that has more power than residents. You have listened to residents over and over again. I hear residents talking to different municipalities and their local governments about this Gelman issue, this poisoned water. We're all in this together. But when I hear residents begging to say no to this consent judgment because it doesn't serve us, it makes me feel like we are separated, but we really are not. We are separated from Gelman, and all of us should be holding Gelman accountable. Now, Gelman may not be around anymore, but Danaher is, and they have the technology to clean this up. I agree with everybody that has the residents that have spoken before me and even in other sessions regarding what we need. But we're in this together, so please hold them accountable for your sake, for our sake, for our children's sake, for our future generations. Here is a quote: if we could begin to look at water pollution as a human rights violation and we could begin to look at criminal aspects of this, I think that could be a game changer for many companies who want to not be forthwith and think that they can just hold off in a lawsuit for 10 years and in the meantime people are still being poisoned. This is from Aaron Brockovich. This fits our community, but it's not just people that are being poisoned. It's our beautiful area, our environment.
30
Thank
seconds.
you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 621, do you have a comment? Caller 621, if you want to press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. My name is Susan Sobolski, and I live at 112 Kenwood Avenue on the Old West Side of Ann Arbor, and I'm directly in line with this plume that has been advancing east for all these years. I've lived in Ann Arbor since 1986, and I've been watching this happen for many, many years. So I'm appreciative of you, City Council, for the work you have all done on this issue. I know you all care passionately about the health of our city and our citizens and our environment. I'm especially grateful to Dan Bicknell and Roger Rail and the many other volunteer citizens who have for many, many years kept a vigil over this poisoning of our environment. I can only imagine where we would be without them. Which brings us to today. I agree with all the citizens who have eloquently listed the reasons to oppose this CJ. I've been watching and listening to these meetings and hearing the multitude of objections. I have yet to hear any citizen who supports this CJ. City Council, I hope you will hear our voices, the people who live here, and think of those who will live here for decades to come. If you vote for yes to the CJ, you will be voting away our rights to contest any problems that arise in the future. And you will be voting to contaminate a pristine lake in our community forever. I'm going to be watching closely for the vote that you all cast. I'll be very curious to see if any of you vote to support the CJ. And I'll be wondering why, because I haven't heard good reasons for you to vote yes for this.
30 seconds.
So I just wanted to say that I and many other people are watching. So I hope you will support us. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are any other callers who wish to speak, please enter *9 now.
Caller with the phone number ending in 534, do you have a comment?
Good evening. This is Tom Stolberg. I've been listening tonight as well as last week, and especially tonight. There is everything I would have said has already been said, and said better than I could say it. So I want to thank all of the callers, and I want to thank the experts, and I want to thank all the members of CARD and people who've been working on this for so long. I do want to stress just a couple points. I do join the call to ask Mayor Taylor to recuse himself from voting on this Gilman-Daxon Plume settlement agreement. He is employed by Hooper Hathaway who is representing one of the parties, and his law firm helped negotiate the current agreement. The mayor may defend himself against conflict of interest by saying he has never worked on this case. Is that good enough? A no vote from him on the settlement would be a rebuke of his law firm's work. He should not be in a position or even to have an appearance of a conflict of interest. And we have years of work and hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. And it's resulted in us being asked to give up the biggest leverage we have over our under-cooperative polluter. And that is the option to petition the EPA for Superfund status. I would say I'm appalled, but that would risk a pun. I don't think we've been done justice with what's been offered here. The stress on the Gulf H area, the First and Second Sisters Lakes area, and the wetlands around there is unimaginable, unthinkable that this would even be suggested. We have global warming, which has added a lot of rainfall on an annual and an individual event basis that stresses our current wetland systems enough. And this additional level of stress, even if it wasn't to include a pollutant, is extreme stress on a delicate ecosystem. And I can't imagine that we would encourage anybody to ask for a permit to do such a thing. And in this case, we would be assisting in getting a permit to do just such a thing. That's not the only reason. There are many reasons, and they've all been said well. So I urge you to vote no on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Please enter *9 now.
Caller with the phone number ending in 379, did you have a comment?
Hi, my name is Lynn Borsett. I live at 322 Virginia Avenue. The plume is directly under my house and has been for many years. There are monitoring wells directly across the street from my house. And I want to echo everything that the previous callers have said. I think this is an opportunity. We often talk about our values in Ann Arbor, about the protecting things for our future residents, and our A20 plan. If we really want to hold to those values, I think that we need to recognize that this consent judgment is a lose. So I look forward to seeing your no votes. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 081, do you have a comment? Caller 081, you can press *6 to unmute yourself. Caller 081, do you have a comment? You'll need to unmute your phone. Caller 081, did you have a comment? Mayor, that's the last caller on the line. All the other callers on the line have already spoken.
Excellent.
Caller 081.
Hello.
Press *6 to unmute yourself.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. If you have television or a computer on, there is a delay, and so that may be causing confusion. Please turn those off and use your phone to speak.
Caller 0.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Lynn Nibel. I live in Lakewood Subdivision at 3110 Lakewood Drive. My family's lived here for nearly 40 years. I just want to echo the stubborn resolve that I feel and that my neighbors feel, and just tell you that it's rooted in the shared history of our neighborhood.
I moved to Lakewood in the 1980s, and we raised our very young children here, just as Gelman poured, sprayed, and soaked this 1,4-dioxin on their nearby property. There was so much that we didn't know then. We didn't know what Gelman was doing, really. And we didn't know the amount, and we didn't know the dangers of the chemicals that they were widely dispersing. But we all know now. That's the important thing. Because we know now, we all have to share in the responsibility to prevent further preventable contamination in our community. So when my neighbor Alexander Weinstein speaks, I think of his children, and I'm determined to prevent their exposure to this contamination, and I know that you share my concern. Mayor Taylor, I really so much appreciate your idea that the city will consider funding a pipeline to remove the treated water from a Park Lake well to the Gelman main site. But as the CJ stands, of course, it retains the provisions of discharge into First Sister Lake. So I think the only decision available is for you to reject it. I know that these delays are so disappointing and frustrating to all that are involved and after all the work that you've already done, but the consequences of approving this flawed CJ are much more grave than the temporary disappointment and frustration. For me and for many of my neighbors, the Park Lake discharge into Sister Lakes is a deal breaker. And you've heard that over and over again. However, I've been forced to study the CJ in recent weeks, like unexpectedly, trying to embrace this learning curve about what it means and what its strengths are and what its limitations are. So I have, in addition to the Park Lake deal breaker, I have concerns about the failure of the agreement to use the most effective technologies. I have concerns about, and therefore, its inability to treat to the lowest achievable levels.
30 seconds.
And I'm concerned about limiting that it is limited in its efforts to help the progress of the plume toward the city water intake. In summary, I think that rejection of the CJ is disappointing, but it's necessary. And in fact, it's a positive step toward an agreement that will better reflect our shared values and our interest in holding the polluter accountable for remediating the damage that they created to the health of the city and its neighborhoods. Thank you for taking this step.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the line who's not yet spoken? If you wish to do so, please enter *9.
Caller with the phone number 278, do you have a comment?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Rosencrantz. I live at 3051 Lakeview Drive, just about 3/4 of a block up the hill from First Sister Lake. I've been a volunteer park steward in both Dolph Park and the adjacent Lakewood Woods, a total of 95 acres of natural areas, recreation parks within the city's park system since 2007. And I had the distinct pleasure of serving with both Christopher Taylor and Julie Grand on the Park Advisory Commission. So I know how dedicated you are to the sanctity of our natural areas. I have to ditto what Len Idell said. And I'm a relative newcomer to this neighborhood at 20 years. But as a caretaker of these natural areas for most of that time, I just want to echo that I think that this consent judgment is a mistake. And I don't believe that all legal remedies would be exhausted by rejecting them. And I encourage you to turn it down, mainly because of the impact on the natural areas that I work to improve the habitats for, that I pick up litter in, that I've done testing in the waters for, and that I've been paying attention to and addressing the issues of toxicity within this system for quite a while. So I just joined the other voices in encouraging you to reject this consent judgment, but do not consider this the end of the road. We need to move forward. There are other remedies at our disposal. They need to be more fully explored, and I believe that we will be heard. I'm grateful for this opportunity to comment on this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other callers on the line who wish to speak? Please enter *9 now.
Mayor, I believe all the callers on the line have already spoken.
Thank you very much. Seeing no one further, this public hearing is closed. Are there communications today from council? Councilmember Hayner.
Just briefly, I'd like to thank all our callers and everybody who called this special session tonight. I think it's important that we hear from
Councilmember
folks.
Hayner, I can't hear you. I don't know if anyone else can.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, basically,
Sounds like you're good. That's my problem. My apologies.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to thank everybody for calling in, and I appreciate everybody doing their homework on this issue. I had to dig through a little email to see what they were talking about, the suggestion that there is an alternative pipeline. I will say that I don't think that's anything that we or the public should ever consider paying for. I think the less the public pays for this, the better, down to zero. Although we know with the last 3-4 years, we've all the various municipalities have spent a lot on legal fees and so on. And so, that's a concern of mine ongoing, but I appreciate the notion that that's a hang up with some people, because it is a hang up. It's a very bad idea to pollute a pristine body of water. So thanks for responding to those folks' concerns, Mayor Taylor. And that's all. Just thanks everybody for getting together, and I know we have put our thinking caps on now, but yeah, I'm pretty clear that I'm not happy with this deal, and I encourage my colleagues to reach out to me if there's any other reason they haven't already heard why we shouldn't be satisfied with this option. Thank you.
Councilmember Griswold.
I want to thank staff and especially thank Dan Bicknell, Roger Rail, all of the local experts who have literally spent hundreds of hours trying to assist us, even though we basically locked them out of the process. And I understand that because it was a legal case, we had to do that. But I really appreciate that they continued to follow this process. And I also, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, during this process, the cleanup continued under consent judgment 3. So it's not like this time was wasted and we weren't cleaning up. But I hope that we can look at this not only from a matter of accelerating our effort and giving this a full court press. We absolutely have to clean this up. We absolutely have to consider all options. But also, I think that there are lessons to be learned from this process that could be applied to other efforts in the city. And as we're having an annual meeting with new council members, I really encourage those who are continuing on to look at how we make decisions and what's driven by ideology versus what's driven by facts, and how we either welcome experts from our community or lock them out of our process. So again, thank you to everyone, and I, like everyone else on council, remain committed to a cleanup. Thank you.
Further communication from council? I'll just say very, very briefly, and with respect to my communication to residents regarding the cost of an alternate discharge solution, I identify what I believed to be the cost of the matter, but I don't think my communication made reference to who actually would pay for it. So I think that's an important point to make reference or to refer to. Councilmember Bannister.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Taylor. I just wanted to report that the Environmental Commission met last night, and we are also drafting a resolution for council urging us not to support this fourth CJ. So that will be coming. We need one more meeting to finalize it.
Councilmember Lone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to follow up on
some of the conversations that have been held informally with staff and others in response to the concerns brought to our attention about the discharge from Park Lake well to First Sister Lake. And thank you again for your follow-up, Mr. Mayor, with staff on that. I've also had a couple conversations myself about that, and I too think it's critical that we also, if there is consideration of building this transmission line to take the discharge from the Park Lake well back to the Gelman site, and the costs there's a huge delta, and it's been cited anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million. I think that, and it's also unclear if that would be like upfront capital costs, if that includes operation, maintenance, monitoring, and associated costs. So that obviously would need to be clarified. But also, I think it's critical to talk to our partners, Scioto Township, the county, and certainly Paul Gelman, to explore financing opportunities. We all do share in this responsibility, and so I would encourage staff to explore those options with our partners and for financing. And again, if this is to be pursued, and also obviously it needs to be clarified before any votes taken on this matter, whether or not this can be done outside of the Fourth Amended CJ, or whether the Fourth Amended CJ would need to be rejected in order to accomplish some of these other things to address the various concerns that have been presented to us. So thank you.
Councilmember Romali.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor, and I'll just echo the comments made by my colleagues and thanking everybody in the community and their involvement in this for decades. We wouldn't have the appreciation for all the information that we have now without the help of all the residents and folks outside of staff, including, but not to say that we didn't get proper information from staff, but it's been just a really an amazing lift by just ordinary citizens who want to do the right thing. So deep appreciation for all that. And we've been getting a lot of emails recently about people's water bills, and the cost of the rates and the affordability and such. And I just want to, remind folks and remind us and remind myself that, the legal challenge and the cost to fund it is being paid for in part by our water bills. And so, it's coming at a cost for our community for something that we didn't ask for. It's something that's been dumped on us, and the cost, the financial cost, is becoming a little too heavy. So it's again something I would like to note. Further, I would just like to ask what the timetable is now for council to take action on this and to vote on the three resolutions that we need to vote on. I find it extremely important that this council takes that those votes, and that this hopefully can be done before new council sat. There's just way too much information that needs to be understood, I think, for an elected official to have a good sense of how to, well, at least an appreciation of that type of vote. So again, if I can just get
I believe it's targeted for the 19th.
Thank you.
Further communication from council. It's been thank you. Because this is a meeting, it occurs to our clerk that we are required to have public comment. And so with council's acquiescence, we'll roll public comment just prior to the adjournment. To speak at public comment, we now come to public comment general time. To speak at public comment general time, one need not have signed up in advance. To speak at public comment general time, please enter this number on your screen. That is 877-853-5247. 877-853-5247. Once you are connected, please enter meeting ID 987-0473-7314. 987-0473-7314. Upon connection therein, enter *9. *9 to raise your hand and you will be identified. Speakers have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time is up. When your time is up, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor to the next speaker. Is there anyone who'd like to speak at public comment?
Mayor, there's still a few callers on the line from the public hearing, but I don't see any hands raised with the *9 feature.
Anybody who's dialed in would like to speak at public comment, please enter *9. Otherwise, public comment is closed. May I have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved by Councilmember Griswold, seconded by Councilmember Hayner. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.